Welcome back, Flyers nitty-gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili, Gianarakos. Vasili, welcome back for another episode. How you feeling? How you doing?
Doing well. Everything's good. We got some big news in Flyer land, so that's going to be great to dive into that. Wasn't on last week. Still a great episode, though, so I hope everybody still tuned into that. Was under the weather, but back now and here to talk some John Tortorella and just see where things are going and think where things are headed in the Flyers world and in the direction of the franchise. So I'm excited for this one, Yariv. How about you?
Yeah, man. I feel like it's a pretty big moment in Flyers history that just happened. It's like it feels weird to talk about because like there's still so much up in the air and he hasn't even coached. But like, John Tortorella being a Philadelphia Flyer. I mean, I grew up watching John Tortorella. He broke my heart actually at one point. This son of a bitch. He actually was always annoying. He's super annoying, And he kind of reminds me of like the Chris Pronger era. He's like that. He's like a remnant of that era where guys were still super dirty and coaches were like mean. Yeah. And like it was expected that they were mean. And I think Tortorella, while I don't think he is mean, and we'll get into that, I think he just represents that era. And
I think there's an evolution too of him, and he probably would admit that as well.
Yeah. Well, we have some other coaches that represent that time too, right? Like a Quenneville, like a Babcock. A lot of these guys have gone down, in recent years, but gone down for like weird reasons. But there's so much talent there. And I think it's exciting to have a big name like Tortorella. Like it's like this is going to be the Tortorella era. Even if we add a superstar, he's such a big personality. It's interesting, like AV wasn't even this big of a personality. He was a pretty big personality.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tortorella's like a different kind of essence though about him. There's just a pure confidence that's kind of exuding from him. Obviously AV, same thing. I mean, if you're an NHL head coach, they all have egos. They all have, huge confidence, things like that to be able to, lead men like they're doing that. But just the press conference that Tortorella gave, I mean, if that didn't, change your opinion about him, if you had a negative one, I don't know what ever will, or if it ever will be changed. But there were some things I heard in that press conference that just, I wasn't entirely sold on him beforehand. I mean, he wasn't in my top 3 or 4 choices of a coach, but that press conference that he gave, if he stays true to what he said, then I would definitely be very interested. And I think the team will, rally behind his message. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude. I love where you're going. So let's give a shout out to the sponsor and let's get into that press conference because we do have several topics to talk about, but obviously a big chunk will be Tortorella. And yeah, I agree with dude. So much agree about that press conference. Oh my God. Actually, I'm excited to get into it. So first, shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks on 4th and South. Go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim Steaks. They are Flyers fans. We are Flyers fans. They want to work with us because we're Flyers fans. They want you to eat their cheesesteaks because you are Flyers fans. Thus, the circle is complete. Go get yourself a cheesesteak. Jim's 4th and South. Thanks you, Jim's. All right, let's get into the press conference. And man, you definitely said it, dude. Like that press conference, let's be honest, things have not been going very well here of late. There haven't been a lot of good press conferences for the Flyers lately. And I think most people were expecting not a train wreck at all. I don't think anybody was expecting anything crazy. Everybody knew that a good coach was going to be hired. Nobody was down. There's too many names available. So maybe it wasn't the guy you wanted, but everybody knew, like, even if you ended up with Peter DeBoer, he's not an idiot. I mean, you might not they might not be your selection, but it's not the bottom of the barrel picking here, right?
There's too many candidates for them to mess it up, essentially.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think this is actually the first time, and I'm going to say this tentatively, that Chuck Fletcher, at least in a while, has not made like a logistical error. Like he didn't under-deliver, right? The rumors of them going all out on an offer for Trotz, which, again, we don't really know what's happening with him. And now there are rumors that he might go back to Nashville, right? That might be a more complicated situation than we're even aware of, right? So if he might not be interested in coaching right away, right? So yeah, we don't really know what's going on there. So let's assume because the other good coaches were signed, right? Cassidy is another top choice. DeBoer is about to. I think he just signed a
He
contract.
just signed 4.25 or 4.25 mil for 4 years.
Yeah, with Dallas, right? Yeah.
So similar to Torts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's what those guys make. So you look at that. Actually, Fletcher paid less. Good job,
Yeah,
Fletcher.
4 mil.
Better candidate,
for 4
paid
years.
less.
There you go.
So it just like this was really the best option the Flyers had available, short of like Jim Montgomery. And they're more obscure creative options. Like I get that people are saying that, and I'm not saying this to be a dick, okay? But like I hear people say like, oh, like let's go new and fresh. Like I get it, but you guys really don't know what you're talking about. You're saying because it sounds new and fresh, and I get that, and I understand the appeal of new and fresh. But we're not in these rooms. We don't know none of these coaches' ideas. And to say that you have to go new and fresh because that's the better option, no, you have to go for the better option. Sometimes it's the new option. Sometimes it's the current option. I'm not saying that there aren't new options that could be even potentially better, but I don't like that people just go, oh, let's like that's a huge plus because it's new. It's really not. There are coaches that are doing the same thing that other coaches have done. It's not a fresh new approach, and they're killing it. Like, we don't. It's not a defining thing for being good. That's all I'm saying.
That's true, and I think you also really have to factor in that. I mean, we're not in the room, we're not in the locker room, as you said. So obviously, the GM is going to have a better feel as to what kind of coach he's going to need to get the most out of his players. I really think the way this team's structured, I don't think they could have went fresh and new and like a new hire type of coach from the AHL or from college or for something like that. And the reason why is just because they need a guy that's going to get them to buy into their system. I don't know if all the players are going to buy into a new coach like that. With a Tortorella, you got the track record there, you got the cup win there, you got the previous successes,
totally,
and all just everything else as well as the communication. I mean, and him stating in that press conference that no matter what, players are going to know where they stand with him, and he's always going to tell them straight up, and he's going to be honest. I think that's a big thing, because we heard rumblings with the Vigneault regime that was one of the things that they were very bad at, was communicating with the players and giving the players reasoning as to why certain things are happening on the ice. Why am I playing with these players? Why do you want me going out there to do this, do that, do this? Where they're almost, I believe there was rumors that was more Terry and Yo kind of talking with the players one-on-one versus your head coach at a point.
Well, I think that's the case with Trotz. I mean, I've heard that that's the case with Barry Trotz.
Possibly, yeah.
That he's
I think the Flyers need somebody that's like very hands-on, like Tortorella.
Dude, I think you nailed it. That statement is exact. And Tortorella's hands-on. This locker room, this organization is fractured. That we can say whatever we want. I don't think things are as bad as everybody says. I really don't. But at the end of the day, things are not where they used to be. And again, to the whole new and fresh and okay, Fletcher's new. Hackstall was new. Hackstall was coming back. Dude, again, everybody that people shit on that blame for all of our problems, Holmgren and Bobby Clark, the teams were considerably better under those guys. Like our organization was at its prime, and that guy that was old, that's Ed Snyder. Like that old thing, that there was victory here. There was pride. The team was better. We were always competitive. They had a better relationship with the fans. So don't give me that like new is better. It can be great, especially when you're stagnant. And you can say the Flyers are stagnant, but they're really not. They've tried new. They made big trades. They made fan-like trades where they overpay for shit. And hey, look, didn't materialize into shit. I just like, I'm tired of hearing about it. We need exactly what you said. I think what you said was perfect. You know what I mean? We need somebody who's more hands-on, and I do think Tortorella is like that. And I think he is the right coach for this team right now, and I think the energy feels that way. And you mentioned the press conference. I mean, I said this earlier. I think that was the best press conference that I have seen from a new coach, from a new Flyers coach in all the times I've seen. I cannot think of a better entry press conference for a coach.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really think of any sort of press conference from a coach that had that, same intensity, same fire. Like if you compare Alain Vigneault's presser, I mean, he was very candid with the media, very friendly, but it was nothing like Tortorella in terms of like
He was
inspiring.
smooth.
Yeah, exactly. Different
He was
styles.
different. He was like a salesman.
Yeah, different styles. I mean, the only coach in recent memory that's really reminiscent to me of Tortorella would have to be Laviolette, which is kind of makes sense. I mean, in terms of the personality wise, but in terms of structure and the way they employ and implement their systems, very different.
That's what he said. He's like a callback to that era. And
Yeah,
so
with
is Laviolette.
Laviolette,
Yes.
you could argue the same. Exactly.
Exactly. And I think Tortorella. Oh, looks like Russ Cohen is here. I think we got to let Russ Cohen in. So
Yeah,
those who are not aware, because I probably won't edit this out, Russ Cohen was supposed to join us and he was late. Didn't know he was going to come. So I think we're going to let him in now and then we're just going to kick it off. Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's see if it let him in.
Hey, Russ.
Hey.
Sorry about that, guys. I get tied up with stuff going on down here for the cup and everything, and yeah, time got away from me.
Don't worry at all. No worries.
It's all good. Yeah, we were actually just in the middle of recording, but let's just keep going with it if you're good, if you're cool with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's catch you up. I mean, we were really just kind of getting started, Russ. We were really just talking about the Tortorella hire, and we were going through what we thought about the hire, what we thought about the press conference, and what kind of fit Tortorella is for this team. The consistent message from Vasili and I is that we both think he's actually the right fit for the right time. The right coach, and we think that he had a great press conference. He said all the right things. And that we need somebody, and this kind of Vasili's quote here, somebody's a little more hands-on at a time where, this is kind of a fractured room, right? Fractured locker room, fractured organization in some sense. We're pretty excited. What do you think about the Tortorella hiring?
I mean, look, I think John's a good coach. I think the hire was fine. Was he the right hire for this group? Yeah, if you're looking to get more out of less. But again, I don't think that the number one choice should have been let's just forge ahead and try and redo the roster and get better. I don't think that's the right choice. But, based on that, sure, John's a good choice. That press conference was an extension of an interview that he basically was doing with the teams, right? So he came in for that hot and said all the right things. To me, like he even said it, and I wrote about this on sportsology.com. He said that, things like accountability and structure and all those things are summer words. And they are. Until you see it on the ice and see players actually doing it, it is just talk. I heard a lot of talk that I've heard before out of Flyers coaches, and that's not to say it's not valid. It's just to say I've kind of heard the sales part of it before. And so, it's up to me to sort of like decipher what I think's happening. So I just think he was well prepared. I think that as the press conference went on, had it gone on a little longer, I think we'd have gotten a little more out of it because, first he was like, there's not really anybody that I'm most looking forward to talking to. And then he's like, no, you know what? Like 15 minutes later, he was like, no, you know what? Kevin Hayes. I really want to talk to Kevin Hayes. Why does he want to talk to Kevin Hayes? Because Kevin Hayes makes the most money, because Kevin Hayes needs to be a real 2C on this team. And he wasn't necessarily that last year with everything that went on.
I have a different take on that one. I'm sorry to cut you off, Russ, but just on that Kevin Hayes. So this is kind of what I took away from Tortorella, and he reminds me of somebody that I worked for in the past, where he kept talking about working on a person, on a man, and the way I saw it is like I thought of him going, well, he knows what Hayes has been through lately, right? Passing of his brother, the series of injuries, the collapse of the team underneath him, essentially, right? That trifecta, all three of those. It's a really bad year. I could see like Tortorella being like, oh, like that is an interesting problem, right? Like here's a guy who's pretty good, has really great tool sets, right? 6'5", bigs, can skate, can move the puck, but had like a really down time and never really lived up to that, I guess, that even close point to per game player in the NHL. That I see, like, to him, it seems to me like he's like, this is a project to Torts. Like, ooh, like I can fix this and can I fix that? And here's like all these like broken things. Like, am I off there?
I don't know if you're off.
He seems intrigued. For sure.
What I would say is, I don't think you're necessarily off. I think what it is, like I said, live up to being a 2C this year. Like, he's got to be, unfortunately, he's going to have to focus on the game at the rink. If he's still dealing with the other stuff, he's got to deal with that after games. There's just no way around it. 45 points for a couple of years ago for a $7 million second-line center is not cutting it in this league. And John is about results. So he is going to try and talk to him and get the results out of him that way. But he should be the number one guy he talks to because he's the least performing for what he's making. Other than JVR, like, he is the next most important guy to get going. JVR, we all agree, probably won't be there.
Yeah.
But Kevin Hayes is going to be there.
That's a good point.
Definitely. I mean, you're probably going to want to see Tortorella try to get more out of him. I don't know if he's going to be able to. I mean, he's going to definitely push him. That's what Tortorella is all about, right? Trying to push the players, trying to push their buttons, trying to get it to work. You want to hope that, I mean, he pushes the right buttons and gets the most out of Hayes. I mean, if you could get Hayes hypothetically past that 45-point mark, I mean, that's all gravy, right? Going forward through what he's kind of been through, all the surgeries. So if you can hit that plateau of 45 and get by that, I mean, that's great work by Tortorella. I mean, but like you said, Russ, until we actually see it happen, there's no guarantee, I mean, that we're going to see him perform to that level, right? But though Tortorella, I think if there's any coach that, I mean, could push the buttons, it might be him.
It might be. And again, like, let's say for argument's sake, and it might not work out this way, that, Lawton's the 3C. If Lawton's scoring as much as Kevin Hayes, you got a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's
for that
a great
money.
Problem for Lawton. Bad problem, right? It's a lot of money not being utilized.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I would imagine they're heavily invested in getting Kevin Hayes going. So let me ask you this, Russ: as somebody who is you definitely know Torts, right? Like, I know that you know Torts. You followed him very closely.
I mean,
for years.
We're not personal friends,
but his career, like
friends.
I mean, like you're a subject matter expert on Torts. Let's put it that way. And the way I see it, like, do you think outside of Kevin Hayes, who do you think that he'll try to leverage the most from a leadership standpoint on this team? Like, I was asking about, like, because you're familiar with Torts, the leadership group, like, outside of Kevin Hayes, like, who do you think he's going to try to leverage the most to try to communicate with the rest of the team, right? Like, we don't have like a necessary core, but, he's going to want to come in and try to establish probably certain leadership group to kind of help spread his message. And I am curious as to, like, why we haven't heard Sean Couturier's name come up yet, especially directly with Torts. Maybe that's just coincidence.
I think that's just coincidence. I think you don't generally have to worry about Couturier. He plays the way John wants to play. So I think he's kind of like, that's my last problem. If Sean Couturier is a problem, then I got big problems. So I think they're not looking at him. I think Ivan Provorov is one that he will focus on because the talent's there. He did better the second half, or I shouldn't say the second half. The last 20 games he was better. And so he'll work on him with the decision-making, not so much risk-taking, keeping it simple. I think Provorov is one that could really be helped. I think Sanheim could still be helped on his decision-making got better as the year went on, but he's going to try and get more toughness out of him. Mm-hmm. And I think Sanheim, every once in a while, doesn't mind, hitting. So I think he'll do that. And I think Risto will be, let's keep it simple and have fewer turnovers in big spots. If you're going to have a turnover, I don't want it to be in front of the net because they wanted to clean up things in front of Carter Hart. And it was smart that John said, hey, he's only 23. And it's true. Like, that's John's way of saying there's not a lot of 23-year-old goalies in this league that are good.
Yeah. Yeah, there aren't. There are not that many that can handle pressure, right? Or get shellacked every night by the way the Flyers have been playing defense or lack thereof.
I mean, Tortorella, I think he indicated the team really needs to try to support Hart a lot better and just have a better structure around him defensively, so there isn't so many breakdowns in front of him. So I'm sure he's going to try to, implement that mindset with the defense in any way that he can. I was wondering, Russ, just your opinion on, do you think there's another coach that would have been better suited, versus Tortorella potentially?
Well, I mean, I didn't think Barry Trotz was ever coming. So I removed him from my thoughts.
Makes sense.
Because I never thought it was serious. I thought Jim Montgomery could have been a good choice because Montgomery is a good blend of working with the old and going with his system, which is a very good system. It worked at Denver. It worked with the Stars until things went bad there, and that just wasn't anything on the ice, right? It was off the ice, and he's corrected that.
Yeah.
So I felt like Montgomery. And look, I think even Peter DeBoer would have been a good choice because Peter DeBoer is a good coach, but he's got to be in the right situation. He got scapegoated, I think, on his last job. So I think DeBoer, I think Vegas kind of killed him when they didn't need to. So I think he'd have been good too. But, I think John could do a really good job with this. I just think, and he was smart not to give any sort of predictions on what this season will be because look at the Metro. How could he?
Yeah. It's stacked division. It's very hard.
Doesn't that kind of go back to what I was saying? Doesn't it seem like he's in this for the long haul? Like in his mind, he's like, this is a 5-year project and I'm going to come in here and establish and I'm going to fix TK and I'm going to get Provorov to be a number 1. And I'm going to, that's how I think he kind of sees things in his head.
No, I do think he sees that way, but he knows better not to say it because that's not what his bosses want. So,
which is right, which is smart.
Yeah. Right. So I do think he sees it that way. I do think you'll see more out of year 2 than you will out of year 1. Whether that's a playoff team or not, I think they'd be closer to a playoff team in year 2. Mm-hmm. It's just, again, he doesn't have much cap flexibility. Maybe Chuck will create some, but then if you spend on another big star, my thing is don't get the big star this year.
I agree.
Totally agree. We were talking about that as well.
Yeah, get another player you could add, save on the cap, and then you know what? Maybe at the deadline, if somebody is trying to move a potential big star because they want to save on the cap or they know they can't re-sign them or something like that, then go get that guy because now you've got cap flexibility. Mm-hmm. But you don't have that, and you're not going to have it at that time unless all of a sudden, like Ryan Ellis is back on LTIR. You know what I mean? So to me, that's a hindrance. There's nothing John could do about that. And John, if you notice, he didn't talk about Ryan Ellis because he never talks about guys that he doesn't know about or aren't right in front of him. Mm-hmm. And that's fair too because we're probably going to get a Ryan Ellis update in July.
Yeah.
We didn't get one the other day. And so we don't really know what his status is going to be. That's just being fair.
Yeah. Fletcher, I think he was on Flyers Daily with Jason Martinez the other day just to kind of go over the press conference with Tortorella. They did touch on Ellis a little bit. He said, he's progressing how we think he should be, but realistically, who knows what that actually even means. So
here's what I would say about that. And this isn't being a jerk, right? That's great.
Yeah.
But not giving us anybody a timeline means nothing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean by it. Like they don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like if you don't concretely say, okay, well, in 2 weeks he's going to be going on the ice, or in 2 weeks he's starting, off ice workouts, then going to try to work up to getting back on the ice. From that point, I mean, how are we able to assess exactly when he might be back or if he will ever be back? So it's hard to kind of gauge, right? And that's I think the pivotal point of the Flyers offseason really is like if you don't get Ellis back, kind of puts a wrench into any sort of, aggressive retool, rebuild that they have going on. So
I think because of that, and again, just if you look at the risk, I mean, I work in corporate America, I work in, project planning and development and all that. So you don't work off of the optimal date. You know what I mean? No. You assume something will go wrong. So even if Ellis does come back and he plays next year, don't assume you're going to know in July. Like, assume we won't have that answer, that clarity.
But also, you can't assume that he's going to be healthy for all 82 games anyway.
Right.
No, you definitely should not count on that.
No.
The issue, and I think you're right, Yuri, but the issue here is if I don't know what it is in July,
what do I do?
How do I know how to proceed in free agency?
Well, then,
exactly.
So this was my thoughts, Russ. And normally, I'm not pro tanking or anything like that. I'm not saying to tank, but I think you're right. I think to some degree, I bring in Torts because I'm like, look, the culture here is broken. I'm not going to give you more assets. I'm not going to give you more. You need to make do with what you have. That's what I need for right now. That's what I need. I need a coach who'll come in here and not go, oh, this is not the right. I don't want ghost. I don't want. It's like I don't care. I need you to come in and make the best of what you have for at least this year. We got to play it smart. You have a draft which is loaded with talent that let's say you do end up at the bottom and you miss the first overall pick, whatever. I'm just saying theoretically, at least the second overall pick's amazing. The top 5 is amazing. This is a year where if you're not that good, you're not punished for it, right? Yeah. You benefit from it. So this is a year where you can kind of get away with not making a stupid decision. You free up some of the cap. You don't lose anything to lose JVR. You play it smart and then get aggressive. Give yourself at least a little bit, and then maybe that right move opens up, like you were saying, Russ.
And even looking ahead to oh, sorry, Russ, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was saying even looking ahead to like next year's UFA class, there's even some more, bigger names that maybe they could potentially target if, they have more cap space and think that they're going to be kind of going back into kind of contending, trying to, make a playoff push. But at this point, I just think it's not the best idea to kind of put your eggs all into one basket. Okay, we have to go after the big name players, go after, trying to make ourselves competitive when what's the point of forcing it when you could end up, making it worse in the long run. So.
Right. And even for somebody out there that's thinking, well, all right, so if Ellis doesn't come back at the start of the year and maybe is, hurt for 4 months, 5 months, there's LTIR, but then, what happens when he comes off LTIR? Like how much of that money have you already spent? It's, again, not really a good solution. So, and I do think they'll make some moves. I think Torts will ask for a certain type of guys and maybe, Chuck can get them 1 or 2 to kind of help out. That's fine. But you're right. And maybe they'll move Konechny because they'll find Konechny's not going to be good in the system. Wouldn't shock me. He doesn't play well away from the puck. Is he going to start to? This would be like almost a first, right? So I don't know. I don't know if is he going to be able to play this much away from the puck and still be able to score? I don't know because he's not scoring the same way he used to anyhow. So how is this going to make it better? Like, these are big things that I think is a lot to solve in one off-season training camp and some preseason games.
And with too many unknowns too.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like there's so much that's not clear. And I think you have to see what you really have in some, like, why not just find out what's wrong with TK? I mean, I know that the Brinkats rumors are going around, and like that's the type of player I do get, like investing in a guy who's in his early 20s will grow with your team. But if it's not really that, I don't see why there should be a large investment. I feel like you're going to end up hurting yourself. You don't really know where this team is. Ryan Ellis is hanging over your shoulder. At least if Ryan Ellis is not ready, okay, you're like, I'm not great this year. But you can – when I heard aggressive rebuild or aggressive retool, like I didn't assume that they were going to go all out for it the next year. I was hearing, okay, they recognize they're not that good, but they're going to try to be as good as they can, as quick as they can, Yeah, and
that's the goal, I'm guessing.
But it doesn't seem like they would be unreasonable about it. It doesn't seem like they would go, oh, let me get desperate and trade more high-end assets to try to suddenly get better. I feel like they tried a little bit of that. They pushed it with trading the first, last year, and it blew up in their face. I don't think that Fletcher is really going to try to force anything. Russ, do you kind of see the tone changing, or do you see it?
Fletcher's going to have to because Dave Scott is going to want him to. So he's going to prod him to.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I think so. And so, like, here's an example. Like, here's a test for you, Yariv. You're the GM. Yeah. And so now I've made a call. Johnny Gaudreau wants to play here.
Yep.
Okay, it's all, like, fantasy, but he wants to play here. And if we do X, Y, and Z, I can get enough room for Johnny Gaudreau. I can bring back Morgan Frost. Maybe I have to move Konechny and get another kind of hockey trade going back so I get, a scorer back. But Yariv, are you going to do that? Because, Johnny Gaudreau wants to play here, and he definitely will score a lot of points. We don't have a lot of playmakers here. What do you want to do?
Yeah. No, I hear you, right? Because the pressure coming from them. That's where like it depends on what the relationship is, right? If I don't have a great relationship with
And
Dave
they'll
Scott,
sell tickets because the fans will be excited. They're not selling tickets right now.
no, they're not.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of look at it as you have to sell this as something different. You can't sell it as, hey, we're going to be better next year. We're going to be all that. You have to sell it with promise. So that means you have to nail the draft. You have to bring in a young guy who may be like another Owen Tippett. You have to sell it with that, the
But
promise of next year.
They nail the draft. Torts does not care.
Yeah, but you have to. I assume that the conversation was had with him early, but maybe I'm wrong, right? But that's what I would do.
Flyers now, like you get that, right?
The Torts. Sorry,
Torts is the face of the Flyers right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
very true. Yeah.
So, like, he's not going to, if I ask him about the draft in a press conference, he's going to be like, that's up to Chuck. I'm not really focused on it. And it's true.
Agreed.
Like, he's never been.
Yes. But I don't want him to be, though, either. You know what I mean? It's more of just.
Right. But he's going to go tell Chuck, listen, 5th overall pick is great, but why don't you see what's out there?
Yes.
Yeah. Get me some help. Get me some players, I can build a winning team around. That's obviously what he's looking for. Yeah.
Right. And he may not do it, but I wouldn't be shocked if he asked.
Oh, of course.
100%.
Yeah.
But do you think that the Flyers have the necessary picks, the necessary players available for Torch to be like, okay, this is not optimal for what I want to win a cup, right? He doesn't think this is a cup team. You saw it in the way he answered. And we all know that. You're lying to yourself. You say this is a cup team. Look at Colorado. Look at
the Flyers.
Yeah, it's
different stratospheres. 100%.
Yes. But do you think there's enough here where he's like, okay, because I think we all can assume that Couturier, 100% a Torts guy, right? A guy like Farabee. I think a guy like Provorov too is also,
Provorov would be good with him.
Yeah, ideally. Obviously, Ryan Ellis is a huge question mark, but I think having a goalie like Hart is something he would really like. Obviously Cam Atkinson. I think a guy like Lindblom could do well. A guy like Lawton. I think there's a lot of players here that do fit his mold. Yeah. And I think, is he going to be preoccupied enough in that 1 year where he's just instilling a culture where he's going to be okay? Because I think eventually most coaches will be like, yo, I need get me more. This is the best I can. Like, I did it.
Well, how many kids do you think he's going to want to bring along at once? He's probably going to want something similar that happened last year. Like, hey, get me some more veterans because it's like my first year. Like I'm trying to make some things happen here. Now I've got to do all this teaching too.
Yes.
He likes teaching, but let's be fair. Torch doesn't want to teach every minute of every day. He does not.
No, that's a good point. So let's talk about this. Flyers don't have a lot of cap room. They can't afford to sign many guys for long term. Do we see 1 year contracts being an option this offseason where we look for maybe not even the best players, but guys who are willing to take a 1 year deal?
Sure. I think there's some of that. But again, let's examine the 1 year deals from last year. Or even now, which, again, I don't think Nick Seeler should be a 2 year deal because he's he's a basically replacement level defenseman, and you don't want him to play 40 games. Now, Torch is going to love his story. I already saw that. I was going to, and he's going to act like it's Stu Bickle because they're both long shots. And so Torch is going to latch onto that, and hopefully he doesn't overuse them. So, but my basic point is, like last year, did any of those 1 year deals really work out for them? Even Zach McKinnon really didn't work out. He was a distraction. That's what he was.
Yeah, I mean, Yandel was a disaster. Brassard was decent, but what could you really expect?
That was it. No, Brassard.
He kind of did okay. Yeah, but other than that, nothing really.
Nothing. So Chuck has to do better with that this year.
Yeah.
With that.
Identifying the veterans that can actually help. Yeah.
Right. Better identify veterans that can help them, and maybe use the Torts factor to get some, or at least get former players that like to play for him. That's fine. But again, like Owen Tippett, that's a big project now for Torts, because is Torts going to look at Owen Tippett and say, well, he's not scoring because of this, or is he going to kind of listen to somebody like me and maybe somebody else in the organization saying, hey, he needs a shooting coach because his shot's a little off, he has a little hesitation in it. When he doesn't hesitate, he scores. When he's got an extra second to think about it, it's not going in. We need him to score. How are you going to make that happen? Because if he doesn't score in a year, while he'll still be on the team, and he'll be like a tough guy that maybe gets, 12 goals a year, 13 goals a year, maybe, 30 points. Everybody's going to look at that and say, is that what we got from Claude Giroux? And that may be unfair, but that's the risk that they took when they made this trade rather than getting a prospect.
Yeah, that's the comparison you're going to get.
I said this before we trade Giroux. I've been saying this way prior to this. You never really win those trades. Like everybody always wants. You never do. You're not getting a guy like the guy you traded away. So you can get lucky. The Flyers had some of that in the past, with the Richards Carter trade and all that. But typically, you don't usually lose out on that. It's unfortunate. You're
trading has to score 20 goals a year, or you got the wrong guy.
Yeah, essentially. Well, that's what they trade. That's what they're hoping for when they traded for him, that he could at least hit that as like the base of his potential. Anything more would be, over the top, cherry on top. But just 20 goals, I'm guessing, is what they're hoping for, or like close to it next season. The thing is with Tippett that's interesting to me is like he had a lot of great scoring chances at the end of the year, but like you were saying, he just couldn't get them to go into the net. So they're gonna have to figure out a way to help him there. Like you said, maybe shooting coach, something along those lines. Could be a confidence thing, but
it could be. There's only so much emphasis and energy Tort's going to put into that. He'll put a lot into it at the beginning, but if he's still not getting those results, he's going to go a different direction and put him in a different role.
So that actually leads to the next topic perfectly. And you mentioned it over and over again, Russ, and I know you've thought about this, and I listened to the Locked On podcast as well. So I know you guys talked about this recently. Oh, I love it. I brought it up on here. It's awesome. Yeah, awesome with you and Rachel. It's awesome that you guys do that. It's daily. It's like, how can I not listen? You talked about assistant coaches, and I think this is actually more important than people realize. And I think, you talk about with Torts, the type of guy he is. So this is a concept a lot of people are probably not familiar. I'm going to give a really brief overview of it. There are a lot of personality tests out there. There's a lot of communication tests out there, right? If you there are optimal ways for communicating, but everybody has their own communication styles. One of the ones that I know of, there's this thing called DISC, which most people don't know. You classify people into birds, right? So you get your eagle, that's your type A personalities. Those are I need a little bit of info. Give it to me now. Give it to me quick. A lot of times they're in leader positions in corporate world. Then you have your parrots. Those people are really excited about ideas and thoughts. They're like artists, a lot of time creative people. Then you have your owls. These are people who are heavy detail oriented, engineers, scientists. They'll read every line of your email. And then you have your doves. These are people who are sensitive, more aware of people's feelings around them and want things to be more copacetic. That's a lot of like the communication motivations. If you think about what Torts is, right? He is heavily an eagle, most likely. He's going to be rah, 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 like pushing people forward. So you
very
need,
type A.
So you need complementary people to that. And we saw that with the Flyers, right? They had Michel Therrien, not really a dove in any sense. But you have Mike Yeo, right? Mike Yeo, I think, was that guy for the Flyers where he was easier on the players, easier to talk to. He clearly built a relationship. We saw when everything they were asked, keep him in. Do you see anybody out there, Russ? Do you have anybody in mind that could be, and I would think he'd have to play a more prominent role than a Yo. I think he'd have to be a bigger part of the team, and maybe it's the power play person. I don't know. Maybe it's the PK person. I'm not sure. But do you think of anybody that'd be a good compliment?
Yeah. So, one of the thoughts I had for a power play person was Mark Recchi. He's no longer with the Devils.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Every Flyer fan would be excited to hear that he's back. I've spoken to him. He's a smart guy. He certainly played great on the power play. Let's see if he could do something with that. If you wanted somebody on the defensive side, maybe they could overpay for Luke Richardson because he hasn't been hired as a head coach and bring him back in the fold. He's a smart guy as well. I think him and Torts might have something in common, and you could do that. The name of Joey Mullins, another guy who ran a good power play here before, but I don't know why he left. So maybe Joe doesn't want to come back. I'm not sure. But I like Richardson. I like Recchi. And I'll give you another name who coached with him at the Rangers and now is doing like those 3-on-3 camps. I don't know if he's coaching in that 3-on-3 league, but he's doing camps to prepare players and everything for it. And that's Perry Pern. He was with the Rangers a long time. He was with Torts. He's kind of like a guy that can handle it all. And he is he's about 71, so I don't think he's past it. But he's also that guy that's, the wise old owl. And it's good to have somebody like that for Torts to kind of, chat with that way. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have all like minds. If you want to have a like mind with the defensive guy, fine, because that's your defensive system that you want to employ. That's great. But everybody else should not be an exact like mind. But if there is somebody out there like a Pern who is used to working with Torts, then that's a benefit to bring that guy over, because then those guys already know each other, and there's no getting to know each other, period. They can hit the ground running.
Maybe it's a combination of something like that, like somebody's worked with, and then something new,
Yeah.
Right.
That brings kind of like some more fresh ideas potentially, at least on the offensive side anyway.
Yes.
Do you think any of those names that you mentioned, maybe Mark Recchi? I mean, Recchi was obviously a high impact offensive player, very good playmaker, scored goals as well. Is he somebody you think could help fix the Flyers power play? Obviously, Joey Mullen, please, but I don't know if he's
I think one of those guys could do it. And I'm even leaning towards Recchi just because I think the fan would get excited about that and sort of help feel better about this whole process. So I think Recchi would be great. And Pern, like they don't know him here, but they'll get to know him by just him doing a really good job. Again, Torts doesn't always want to run practices, so you have someone that's willing to run practices once in a while too.
That's good enough. Yeah, like we need complementary pieces for Torts.
Yes.
I think that's also a big part of this as well.
Will help facilitate his coaching style more. And then also, I mean, you can't have the same exactly like-minded guys as Russ was saying. The ideas can get kind of convoluted that way, right? So you want fresh things, fresh perspectives. If it's all the same people thinking the same way.
If we're all on the same show and everybody agrees with everything, nobody's watching. If you don't challenge me on anything, it's like I'm never going to get anywhere.
Exactly.
So what do you think they're going to do with the Phantoms at this point, coaching wise? Is LePerriere going to stay there?
That was something that was not covered. It was not
at all.
At all.
Oh, yeah.
It's not been covered at all since the end of the season. Even on Flyers Daily, it doesn't sound like it was covered. This is the great unknown right now with the Flyers is just what the heck is going to go on with the Phantoms, because it doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of Brent. It's not in his job description. Like, he's not that guy. Danny Briere is the special assistant to Chuck, but unless Chuck says, "Hey, you're in charge of Lehigh," he's not. Chuck is in charge of Lehigh and the Phantom and the Flyers, and we don't hear boo out of Lehigh. We don't know what Ian LePerriere is doing. He's probably on vacation, just kind of hoping they bring him back. Maybe Torts will suggest somebody for the AHL coach so they could have a system that's the same with the Flyers and Phantoms. That would be nice. But these are all like hopes because we don't hear anything about it. Zero.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it's time to step up, Chuck, and fix the Phantoms. Like, I don't think it's acceptable that the Phantoms haven't been very competitive. Go out and get the best AHL players if you have to. I don't care. Like, go out and spend the max. Go get the best players you can. Fix it. We have actually some youth coming there. I just don't think it's acceptable that it's so mediocre to below average.
Yeah, and also you just don't want to foster the development of a lot of like key young prospects into a system like the Phantoms when they're just kind of in a sense of mediocrity that they have been in the last couple of seasons. And also, I don't know if LePerriere would be the right coach as well to bring along some of the younger guys and develop them in the way that they might need to be to have an impact at the NHL level going forward. And then I never really liked the fact that at least last season, the two systems were not coinciding. Like what LePerriere was running down there was not even close to what was happening at the NHL level. So then you bring players up and it's kind of even more of a teaching process for the younger guys. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think like you were saying, the best thing would probably be to get a coach in there that runs a similar system to Torts. So it's kind of almost like a seamless transition if and when younger guys do get called up. Because as you saw last season, the injury bug can hit from all angles, and you never know when it will. So
no, well said. And yeah, it frustrates me that they didn't even talk about it yet.
Yeah,
it's just like, when are you going to do it?
It's confusing why they didn't give it to Danny Briere. You would think of like, hey, this is kind of a perfect role for this obscure title you gave this guy if you put him ahead of the of the Phantoms. Nobody's going to be questioning what is Danny Briere doing, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's just I'm not used to the Phantoms being an afterthought. And I don't think Hextall was like the best of the Phantoms, but at least they were competitive. And now they just seem completely. They had a good coach, reliable coach, and now
was great.
Yeah, exactly. He was good enough to be an NHL coach, probably. And I don't know. I just really want to see that resolved. So let's talk about this real quick as we transition forward. There's not a lot of information about this, but Vasili and I were talking about prior to filming this. There's a rumor going on about JVR being traded. Talked about it earlier. It's coming up that a West Coast team is looking at him. I don't know how much validity there is to this rumor. I really don't believe most rumors. I believe most rumors are nothing until they are something. But, we're hearing, kind of being thrown around with 1 year left on his contract. The cap hit's really high. The dollar amount is a little lower, so it's a little more digestible. Part of me kind of thinks that the Flyers might be like, hey, we're just going to ride it out. But maybe I'm wrong. There are trade options going on.
Ride it out.
Yeah, so go ahead, Russ, please.
I think they won't write it out because I don't think Torts will want that. I think Torts was in the league when JVR was playing for the Leafs, and the best thing that Mike Babcock did with JVR was put him 90% of the time on the power play and 10% of the time 5-on-5, and he got most of his goals on the power play and very little 5-on-5 play. Right. And Torts isn't going to do that with him. He's just not going to do that.
He's going to make him fourth line.
That's the best way. Those are the best years of JVR, like when he's actually scoring goals that mattered a little more.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're trading him to someone on the West Coast, they're not taking the full salary. If they are taking the full salary, you're getting almost nothing. If you're eating half the salary, then you might get a decent draft pick or a mid-level prospect. That's all you're getting.
Yep.
Now, if you buy him out, then you're getting more cap savings. And I still think that may be the best choice. Just buy him out. I know he's going to go somewhere and score 20 goals. That's fine. But he's not going to do what I need him to do all the time here. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
I agree. And sorry. But I was saying that pretty much like if you look at JVR, I just don't know if he's going to mold and fit and mesh with kind of what Torch is trying to do with the team, right? So I don't know first of all, he's going to give him the playing time, like you were saying, Yariv, like he's going to end up being a third, fourth liner for $7 million, because is he going to be that type of guy off the puck that, Torch is looking for? He's known to have not been that his whole career, right? So you're not going to change him now at, what is he, 32 years old, turning 33, I believe. So I don't think that's going to be a possible thing. I think they're going to try to most likely trade him just because, it's in the team's directives from Comcast, as you were saying, Russ, that they want to kind of be aggressive and make these big splashy moves. If you don't get rid of that cap, there's no possible way that can happen. So we'll see, I guess. But I think you're probably right that the buyout might be the best thing, because for somebody to take that full contract, which you're going to need to actually make a significant
you're
upgrade.
Probably giving stuff up again.
Yeah, exactly. You're probably giving up assets. And for a team that is picking 5th overall in the draft, they be in the position to be giving up assets to clear $7 million of cap space to try to, sign even probably bigger cap hits and longer lengths of contracts. I just don't understand the logic there. So I think probably the best thing is buyout. You eat probably like $2.5 million next season, and then go from there, and you don't lose a first round pick or a second round pick or something like that to try to get rid of him.
Yeah, maybe that happens. That's why I kind of thought maybe there's a chance they'll even keep him, because they could just be like, hey, we're just going to ride it out the year. He's got a 1 year deal.
That's possible too.
If they actually have any leeway. But I do tend to.
But what the problem is? If you let him ride it out, Yariv, then he's one of those guys that, even though he's well liked in the room, he's basically already accepted mediocrity.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I think by keeping him, you're accepting mediocrity. But right. That's what you're literally just saying. Hey, this is not going to be a good year. Like we're going to eat it, but we're going to eat it hoping that the pain that we take, just like this year, ends us with a high pick and freed up cap space, because we're going to eat it now, but it's going to allow us to come in and do it properly, rather than us going, well, can we Band-Aid this? Can we Band-Aid this? We'll be like, But if we just wait one more year, we won't have as many
you
question
want to wait
marks.
a full year.
Maybe not even a full.
At the deadline, he'll have a lot less salary, but again, you're still probably getting third or fourth round pick.
No, you're not getting much for him at all. But I think overall, I'm just very leery of creating further damage. There's enough of a situation here where we're not in a tear down mode. But if we screw up, like if we make a big deal with JVR,
then you might be in a tear down mode.
Exactly. Then now you're going through 4 years for sure. And you got to gut contracts, and you're going to have to pay assets to get rid of them, and it's going to be very painful. And then eventually things will get better, but we don't have to do that. And if we wait a year, then even if we screw up the following year, the damage won't be astronomical. Where I think if we rush it, we could do really bad.
Yeah, well, you'll have so much more, cap space and just contracts off the books in general. There won't be as much money tied up.
Look at the Risto trade alone. Well, it's not even a bad player. And look how much.
The cap will go up significantly, so that's another factor.
Yes, these are all where my head's at, Russ. And so let's get to the big, I guess, next event. And this is kind of your specialty here, Russ. So obviously, there's a big reason why we wanted to have you on. Flyers have the number 5 pick in the draft. There are a bunch of names going around. We've heard a bunch of those names. I've heard some of your opinions already, but time kind of fluctuates a little bit. I don't know if your rankings are changing too much, but the situation just changes. There are a few names out there that I think everybody's interested in. Where do you see the Flyers at 5? What do you prefer they pick, and what do you think that they will actually take?
Okay, so my rankings are changing, but more of like the like from the 18 to 32 spot, and then I've changed some of the 40s, 50s, and 60s a little bit. I've changed, but again, I'm not even putting all those online. I have a lot of those in the EP Ringside Draft Guide that's out now.
Sure.
And so that's where I went deep with that. But even that's going to change a little bit right before the draft. Like I'm going to be doing a couple of more, and that's it. So. Shane Wright. He's going 1. They can't get him. Logan Cooley maybe falls a spot or 2. They're not going to get him. Matt Savoy will be there. Matt Savoy will be there the same way that Cole Caulfield was there. David Jiricek, I think might be there because I think some team might take Nemec ahead of him. I don't have him ranked there, but that's fine. Slafkovsky will be gone. I think the Devils are taking him. So you're looking at Savoy. You're looking at Jiricek, there's Kemmel, there's Gauthier. I think Gauthier will still be there. Whether you want to do that or not, you have to believe. I think he's a center. Lekaramaki, I like even more than Kemmel. He'll be there. He's an offensive dynamo. He's got a little rounding out of his game to do, but he's got a hell of a shot, and he can skate good enough. He's not like an elite skater. Look, if it were me, I'm looking at Savoy, Jiricek, Lekaramaki. Those are my choices for that spot. And if it's me, I'm going to go Matt Savoy if he's there because the guy runs things through his mind like a coach. If you listen to him at the Combine when they asked him about players, it was like talking to a coach. The all-out effort is there. The skating is really good. Some people sort of, pick on it a little bit. I think it'll even get a little better. He's feisty. He's got already enough of a body on him that I don't think he's going to get hurt all the time, although he did get hurt this year, but that happens. And, a friend of mine, Shane Malloy, who I used to do Hockey Prospect Radio with and still do the draft with, he thinks, he's similar to Mike Comrie. And if you remember, Mike Comrie was a really good center for like 60 points a year for 4 or 5 years. He was like an all-star and really good with Edmonton. And I still think he could actually be a little better than that. And while most people have defaulted and said Savoy is going to be a winger, and they used him in the playoffs this year with Winnipeg on the wing, I still think there's a chance he's a center in the league. Because he thinks like a center. He wins faceoffs. He's playmaker, and he's good defensively. And so he really does think like a center. Still, if you're not a center, it's easy to play wing. So it's not an issue either way. But I do think there's a chance he's a center in this league, like a second-line center. And so I'm going with that guy because what the Flyers have been lacking are playmakers.
Yep.
You traded Claude Giroux, he was a playmaker. You got rid of Voracek, he was a playmaker. You got a scorer back who's good, Cam Atkinson, but you now weeded out the team of playmakers. You know, how many playmakers are on this team right now? A couple?
A few. Yeah, exactly. You need a lot more to be successful, that's for sure.
You need a lot more. And so he could be a playmaker. You know, if you want Jiricek, fine. If you really are looking for that guy that's a 1 or a 2, and because of his size, and I know there's going to be a lot of Flyers hierarchy that love the size, I get it. I won't kill you for the pick. I just think it's better to take Savoy like I thought it was better to take Caulfield, simply because he will fill a need and fill it really well. Like Caulfield feels that you want a goal scorer, you got a goal scorer, you know, and he's actually got an even better skating. I think Savoy will get better skating and better at playmaking, and he'll be a really solid playmaker. And so you want a playmaker, you got a playmaker, and you got a leader on the team and a guy who's fiery every game, every shift. All he cares about is hockey. So, you know, I want a guy like that. I like Jiricek, that's fine. If Nemec is there, I get it if you take one of those guys, but I don't think that's the best guy on the board. I honestly think Savoy would be the best guy on the board, and I think he's going to be there. I think the same way Clayton Keller was dropping until Arizona took him. And again, imagine if Clayton Keller was on a better team. Like, he still had 60 points this year, but he's had a couple off years because who the hell is he playing with half the time?
Mm-hmm.
But you can see the way he skates and the way he handles the puck. And I don't know if you guys looked at Colorado, but I know everybody wants to have a hard-to-play against team and get bigger, but it's speed that's sort of,
Yeah, speed is what kills in today's NHL. Exactly.
They're burning teams. So, is that how you see him as comparable as Keller? Clayton Keller? Because I love Keller.
I think there's some similarities there. I do. And I think there's going to be some similarities in the way he's going to drop a little bit in the draft, too, because, again, I literally, and this is no lie, when Arizona took Clayton Keller, I wasn't on air, but I was on the side, and I did like a slow clap. And that slow clap was like, thank you, Arizona, for having the guts to draft this guy, even though he's a little smaller, because this guy can play.
Because the skill's still there.
Yeah.
Despite the size. Do you think the Flyers will lean towards going with the best on the board like Savoy in your eyes, or do you think they're going to go another route?
No, I think they're going to go another route. I think they're going to look for size and speed, and I think that's the way they're going to go. I feel like that's what they're sort of gearing themselves towards now.
I thought maybe Kemmel potentially, but I'm not sure if that's what they're leaning towards.
Kemmel's not big, and I don't think he's going to get too
physical,
strong.
though.
Yeah, he is a little physical, but I don't know if he'll be that physical in the NHL. But Kemmel's a hell of a shot. Like, he's got a great shot. One of the best 4 shots in the draft.
So why do you like Lecker Mackey more than Kemmel?
I just think he sniffs out goal scoring chances or playmaking goal. He's a better playmaker than Kemmel, and I think he sniffs out those things better than him. Like the
IQ is better.
That was there.
Would you say like the hockey IQ is better maybe for Lecker Mackey?
I think they're pretty close to equal. But again, Lecker Mackey is technically a center, whether he plays center or not, who knows? But he's got the smarts of a center, and Kemmel has the shrewdness of a goal scorer and a guy who could, handle the puck in the offensive zone. Either of them are good choices. They really are. I just think Savoy's better than both of them. But if Savoy were 6 foot, you wouldn't even have a chance at him if you're
it's the size. It's the size thing that
he's really not much smaller, unless this is kind of like underrating his size, or maybe it's not that accurate. So Savoy is listed as 5'10", 181. Kemmel and Lecker Mackey are both 5'11", about 175 each. That's what they're listed online. I don't know if that's true.
I feel like it's never accurate.
I don't know if it's 5.
So there's more of a noticeable size difference, you think, with Savoy, just the amount that you've watched him?
Yeah, there's a size and height difference. Yeah. But again, he's strong. He's you go look at testing. He did great for the testing. He was like, but again, then the knock will be so he's strong for his size. And I was one of those little guys once, and I'm not the biggest guy even now. But as a little guy, I was strong for my size. And I know what that's kind of like when you have that mentality. But when you carry that mentality into the pros, sometimes you get something really good because that guy's got, something to prove.
Yeah. Chip on his shoulder, exactly.
So how do you view? Because I could see David Juracek with the situation with the defense. If you just look at the pool of prospects on the Flyers D, the D in general beyond York is not very impressive from a talent pool. I guess York and Emil Andre, really, those are your only top guys. And they're both not big dudes. A guy like Juracek immediately bumps the D up. You can see where he slots in. He's right-handed. Nemec similar, and I think Juracek is a year older than Nemec, if I'm thinking right. Or maybe it's backwards. Maybe it's backwards though. I know there's like a slight age difference between the two. Anyway, do you see either one of them as like really being a top pairing D guys? Like, do they have like, is Juracek like a Moritz Seider kind of guy? Is Nemec like
neither are Moritz Seider. Okay.
So not to that level.
Not to that.
Gotcha.
No. But just to give like some perspective, do I think Cam York is a top pairing defenseman? Probably not. I think maybe he could play the two sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he could play the 82 games a year. I don't.
Okay.
So that's just to give perspective. I think Juracek and Nemec have a chance to both be top pairing guys.
Okay.
But again, in this league, second pairing defensemen are very, very valuable.
Valuable, yeah.
Sure.
And especially if you have one for 10 years and they play power play and they both could do that really, really well. I think the difference with Juracek is because he has this physical edge, and also like when you saw him in the World Championships, and I don't want to use too much about the World Championships because it was watered down a bit. I mean, we know that a lot actually. But Juracek had to do a lot on his own with his team. He didn't have much to play with. So he would bring the puck up up the ice himself. He would set up the power play, almost like himself. And so I felt like he had to do harder work than Nemec. And I feel like that's going to transfer over into the pros too. And it's not like neither are good workers. They're both great workers. It's just, I feel like Nemec is slicker. And I feel like Juracek can still get more points than him and everything else, but he's got to just do it a different way because sometimes he's going to have to use the size and physicality too.
Interesting. It sounds like.
So would you say for Juracek there's just more like tools in the toolbox maybe versus like Nemec? Or
yeah, I think there's more tools in the toolbox, and Nemec has some better tools overall. Like fewer. I think Juracek does impact the game more.
Okay.
So is there anybody from that top pool that you could see severely dropping? And the only one I've seen so far is Savoy, and that's really just because of just there seems to be like some diversity in the rankings. But do you see anybody kind of dropping considerably, or kind of maybe somebody even making their way up into the top 8, top 7? That is a surprise.
Well, Brad Lambert's dropping, and I probably have him higher than most at 11 because he really has a heck of a lot of talent, but he didn't put up any points this year. So it wouldn't shock me if he drops down into the 20s. So and he was, a couple of years ago, he was being talked about as the number one, like 2-3 years ago. So, again, there's a lot of reasons why, but in the end, he's dropping. Connor Geekie, I feel like he's dropping a bit. He's a 6'4" center who's really good, but he's not a great skater. And so, if you get him, that you have to fix that, and you have to determine, can you fix that? I'm sure the Flyers will talk about Connor Geekie because he's a 6'4" center. Like, if they feel like they can get his skating in check, getting a 6'4" center is a valuable thing to have. But again, you have to be careful because you already have Couturier, and I'm going to give Sean credit and say he's going to still be there when Geekie comes up at some point. He's not the fastest guy. Couturier does a lot of things, but he's not the fastest guy. And
same with Hayes.
Kevin's not the fastest guy. And I'm presuming he'll be there, but he'll be older. And so, that's the risk. Now, if you're getting Geekie, all of a sudden I got 3 centers that are good, but I'm in a faster league. Like, how am I going to have 3 lines with centers like that?
Yeah, you got to think about just
very, very sure.
Yeah, you got to think about the projection and also just having 3 centers that are, slower of foot, like you're saying. It's not going to really impact the game as you want in a faster league. So, I definitely understand that.
Yeah, and Frank Nazar, I think, will rise. I think Gauthier is rising because people are believing he could be a center. He told me he played games at center this year. I didn't see any of them. No, I think I saw one actually. And he's pretty good at faceoffs. But again, this is like something he's been doing, but not like full time. So now you've got to hope that that's like a PLD situation, and I don't know that it is. I honestly think I'm still leaning towards him being a left winger. But if you're going to pick him 5, you better hope he's a center, because otherwise you could have picked the center and somebody with just a little bit more talent. Gauthier, I think, maybe has the best shot in the draft. So if you want a goal scorer and a guy who is a terrific skater and active in the offensive zone, then sure, you got the right guy. But other guys that will drop, let's see. I think Yurov's going to drop to some degree because of the Russian factor now, and even being a little bit more skeptical about what's going to go on there. And that's probably it for the drop guys.
Do you think there's any chance that we're going to see any kind of like anything going different than the rankings? Like, is there a chance that Slavkovsky will drop to even like 4 or something like that?
Not with the vibes I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's kind of settling on the top 3. Seem pretty set with Wright, Slavkovsky, and Cooley.
Yeah, he's pretty locked in. I'd agree.
I would think there's a great likelihood that happens.
Okay. And I mean, it does seem to be logical that even Seattle would prefer D, just the way that they drafted in their expansion draft. They seem to be building from D, but I guess they drafted Berniers. But I don't know. I'm getting a weird vibe about this draft. I don't know exactly how to make of it.
No, I can see Seattle going defense. Were they 4, right?
Yeah.
I can see them going defense.
So either Nemec or Juracek, and then I was so hoping that the Flyers would end up with Cooley. F4, I think maybe is possible. At 5, I think it's impossible.
Yeah, 4 is possible, but a long shot. 5, I think, is impossible.
Impossible, yeah. So any other thoughts that you want to share on the draft? Anything that intrigues you kind of moving forward, even not Flyers-wise? Like any players that people should be – that you think is like a steal of the draft potentially, that maybe even it could be a first-round guy but hasn't shown enough type of thing?
Yeah, I think I love Philip Mashar. When I spoke to him at the Combine, I've got him ranked right now around 25. When I spoke to him at the Combine, it seemed like Arizona had a real good meeting with him, and Arizona, I think, has got 2 first-rounders, maybe 3. So I could see them grabbing him at some point. Julian Lutz, I wrote about on sportsology.com. People could read it. I feel like he's a late riser. He only played 14 games in the DEL this year, and he's a center, and he's good, and he can score, and he's fast, and he's had a lot of interaction, played on the same team for a short time with J.J. Peterka. So he's had a similar path. I think, with Danny Briere's background in DEL, you'd have to keep an eye on that. But if he goes in the second, then you're kind of screwed because they don't have a second unless they get one. If he goes in the third, then you might be able to do something, if he dips to that. I don't know if he will, but he might. So I think there's that. I think Rucker McGroarty could end up going sooner than I have because of the teams wanting the size and grit factor, along with the fact that he does score well and skates well. So I think he's a guy that could overtake some of his NTDP teammates because he's got that other thing going for him that right now teams are targeting. So I think that's a factor. I think Ryan Chesley is rising, but I don't know to what degree because people have him pegged as a defensive defenseman. I do think there's offense in his game. He used to run the power play on the U17s, but then he took a step back. So Lane Hudson could be that guy in the power play this year. And Lane Hudson is really dynamic offensively, but he's like 5'8.5". So I don't know where he's going to go. I think he's going to go in the first round, but Lane Hudson could drop well into the second, even though he's a terrific skater and he's a heck of a defenseman. And he just won the E.J. McGuire Award. They showed that at the game yesterday.
Wow.
But again, he's 5'8.5".
And the size matters.
Yeah. Even though he's got a great shot and can run a top power play, it's possible he slips. So there's a lot of intrigue. There's a guy named Reed Schaefer who's been moving up the charts big time for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Scored a lot of goals late. I think he ended up with 30. So there's been a lot of talk of him. So yeah, this is one of those drafts that the teams and guys like me, the boards are not going to match. They're going to be a lot different. I've already been told that there's a lot different from what the scouts are seeing and what we're putting up there. So I think there'll be some surprises for sure. And I think this is the year where if you're a team, you really have to follow your board. You can't worry about who's falling as much as who you've identified as the right guys at the right times. It's nice to say we got all this value because a guy dropped, but you got to still make sure that guy's right in what you're thinking about for what this team is in the future. Not today.
Yeah.
Because nobody, even at 5, you're not drafting for someone today. Even if you could put that guy in the AHL, you shouldn't be thinking about today. Like if you get Jiricek, you can put him in the AHL, but you shouldn't put him in the NHL. And so you're still not thinking about today. So you have to really think about what are you going to be. And I think the biggest thing that something I can't stress enough is like when the Leafs once drafted Tyler Biggs and, maybe Vasili, that's a bad memory now. That was because they drafted him because he was a big, tough guy. He played in the American program, but unfortunately, by the time he was even close to ready for the league, it got much faster. And there was no for a guy like Tyler Biggs. You don't want to draft a guy that's going to be near obsolete by the time he gets up because the league has changed. That happened with the Rangers. So it could, with Dylan McElrath, it could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're drafting for size, let's say, and then aren't kind of focusing on the skating, where that's obviously where the league's going in terms of the speed. And then one last thing here for you, Russ. I was just wondering, at least draft related, like with the Russian players and the Russian factor, I know a lot of teams are taking that into account. Do you think there's going to be a lot of Russian players that should be a lot higher in terms of talent level versus like where they're going to actually get picked?
Yeah, like Miroshnichenko is an interesting one because he's got all this talent. There was one red flag that I heard out of Russia from my source at the time, just before he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's, but now they've cleared him on that. Still, he's lost a little bit of time. We don't know where he's at in his training and what that means long term. He's still a really good player. Would I draft him in the first round? I might not. I dropped him to like 38, which means if I've ranked him at 38, means he can go, up to like 50 is a reasonable thing. But still, there may be a team with like 3 firsts that says, let's take the home run swing and hope that Miroshnichenko is the Miroshnichenko of before. And then we really got something. So still could be in the first round, but I'm not sure if that's really going to happen.
Okay.
Europe, I think, is in the first round. Gleb, what's his last name? Starts with a T. Gets hard here. Gleb Trikizov.
That's a tricky one.
First rounder. I like him a lot. He's a center. So we'll see where he goes. So that's a big deal. So I think those guys, the ones that aren't playing in North America, if they have a path to get over here quickly, that could help them where they get drafted. If they say they're going to stay over in Russia and we still have war and all these other questions out there.
And it becomes kind of murky.
And what the KHL's and what the KHL's even going to be like next year, then that's going to affect where they go, unfortunately.
Okay. Interesting for sure.
Yeah. Cool. So it's good feedback. I think it's still kind of open-ended out there on the Flyers, and I have no idea what they're going to pick, but I've already learned not to get upset one way or another. Just wait and see. Yeah.
You got to see with all the young players. You never know, right, on draft day what it's going to end up being like, right?
Same with the coach. I've been excited about coaches and then they get fired. I've been not excited about coaches. They do a good job. I've thought coaches are the problem and they weren't, right? So I've already learned, just relax. So let's end on this note. The playoffs. We're here. These have been awesome playoffs. Russ, I'm curious to hear your thoughts so far as to how you think this is playing out. Tampa Bay just won their game. It's now 2-1 in the series. Tampa Bay won a pretty, I don't want to say they didn't dominate the game, but in the score they did, right? They got saved by goaltending. But obviously turning into a really great series, one of the best playoffs I've seen in years, and just an awesome finals with talent, the talent level and speed. Russ, what do you think so far, and who do you think is going to take it in the end?
Well, first thing is I have a question for you. Is
Sure.
that like a musical note on your necklace? Is that what that
Oh,
is?
this is the country of Israel.
Oh, it's Israel. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I see. It's the outline of it. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious.
Yeah, no problem.
Because I also thought from like a weird side, it could be like I don't know, a wide clef or whatever it is.
Yeah, I didn't even notice those.
I read music.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really have liked the series. I do think when McKinnon after last night said that he still felt like it was a pretty good game for them. And look, Tampa does take advantage of your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It did. But McKinnon was penetrating the offensive zone, doing a lot with the puck. Same with Rantanen. I thought Rantanen had a great game, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
First couple of periods, they really didn't have an answer for him, but they didn't put the puck in the net, right? So McKinnon knows he has to score. They know they have to clean it up in front of Kemper. They're still backing Kemper, obviously, which they have to. But I felt like Kemper had a little mini meltdown because I felt like when Corey Perry was bashed by Josh Manson, he got up, he kind of pushed or tapped Kemper, I believe, because of what people were posting, and he needs to score more. He knows that. I think Kemper had a mini meltdown between the stuff that went on with Perry and Maroon going through the crease like that. I don't know if Maroon did that to score. I think he did it more to upset.
Yeah, Kemper. To rattle him a little bit.
Yeah, he saw he was on the edge. Then that Kemper puts that weird poke check on the puck, and it ends up in the net. So once he's out of the game, Francouz isn't going to stop anything, and it's game over. But like Colorado didn't really play that bad.
No.
I think Kucherov's more hurt than Cooper is willing to acknowledge. And I think that's why Cooper said, I think he's playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think he'll even put him out there at the beginning, but I don't know if he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
Point's not playing. If Kucherov doesn't play, that's a big thing they're missing on the right side where he's able to make these great passes cross ice and get scoring chances. They're going to have to do it a different way. And I think they would kind of like do the 11-7 thing and put Cal Foot in there and try and smother Colorado and play a close game, try and play a close game that way if they don't have Kucherov. That's just my feeling. I mean, either team could win this, obviously, but I think Colorado, if they stick with their game, they really have been hard for Tampa to cover. Their defensemen have been
they can't contain them. They can't contain them. Like, they're just the way they're crossing in through the blue line, the speed, it's been really tough for them. Even, Hedman's a great defenseman, but you've even seen him like have some troubles with McKinnon and things like that. So it's definitely crazy to see. But it's been
trouble going into their zone because they're back in transition quickly, and they're keeping someone in the middle of the ice for when they're trying those dump ins, and they're knocking them down.
Yeah. This is like the first year that you can see the finals. You can't be like, oh yeah, build your team after Colorado, and it's like, yeah, okay, like get the most talented team. Yeah, most.
I think.
Go ahead.
This is the positive. If Tampa wins, every team, if they're going to copycat, is going to stay the course. We just want to be hard to play against.
Yeah.
If Colorado wins, then I think teams are going to start taking speed more seriously. You still have size, but you got to be fast. And the depth on Colorado is the part that most teams can't replicate, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
But you're not wrong. I mean, the way they just attack wave after wave with so much speed. Like most of those guys, the average NHL fan won't even recognize their name, and yet they look like star players just flying into the zone, just getting chances on net like crazy. Even Nichushkin, like
I was about to mention him.
Well, he was like a forgotten player. Russ, I know you've obviously followed him tightly, and I know.
Oh yeah.
There was a story with him in Dallas and everything going back and forth, but like nobody knew who this guy was, and he looks like a star player. He
looks amazing.
In his draft year, obviously, we all knew he was the first round
top guy. Yeah,
but it kind of got lost in Dallas to the point where 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, he had 10 assists, no goals, and no PIMs. That's a good trick. And so I think when you get to that low. And then Joe Sakic brings him in and slowly builds him into the player that he is now, which is kind of close to what he was going to be. That's impressive. And he's big. And now that's, you got JT Compher. You got all these other guys they acquired in different ways and or drafted. You got Newhook out there looking good. I thought he had a good game.
Yeah, he was flying last game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I get it. Tampa is opportunistic. They they do get away with some stuff too. Kucherov holds stick a lot, blah, blah, blah. I don't think Colorado gets away with as much, but that's okay. But in the end, it's like Tampa. This is a Tampa team where they look the most mortal. Will they look that way the whole series? I don't know. There's always that chance for the other team to kind of step on their throat, and if you don't do it, you're screwed.
Yes.
Every series it happened with the Rangers, happened with the Leafs, because the Leafs were up, the Rangers were up, and now Colorado's up. If Colorado doesn't stay up and things even up, who knows? Maybe it starts to go south. But, that's right now, you're at that point where you've got to start stepping on their throat a little better.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of close things out. I'm hoping, at least for our sake, we get 6 or 7 games. I mean, just to see a great series.
Yeah, from being greedy. Yeah.
That'd be great for us, but we'll see. I think, honestly, Colorado will probably take it in 6 or 7, though.
Yeah, I mean, originally I did 6, and I think that's still tracking. This is a good series. Like you said, maybe all the scores aren't going to be close, but just because you have close overtime games all the time doesn't mean it's the best series.
No, exactly.
I think we're seeing a different talent level that we haven't seen in years, and I think you guys were right.
Yeah. We're seeing exciting hockey, right?
I was going to say, the last time I think I saw a comparable team just with the flash and the attack and the waves is maybe that Blackhawks team, especially when they went up against the Flyers, when they had Kane in their prime, and they just had a lot of talent, lots of talent.
And they could just keep throwing them at you.
Yeah, you had Andrew Ladd, you had Kane, you had Taves,
they built other good teams from that team.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably see a little bit of that, and maybe a change of the guard here, maybe in a year or two, when some of these salary cap issues, arise and cap will go up and everything. All right. Yeah. We definitely did a long one here, Russ. Thank you so much. I know you were a little bit late, but thank you so much for joining. It's not a problem.
You didn't have to tell everybody I was late. Thanks for telling.
Well, sorry, I think we said that when we first showed up, but it's okay.
All right.
But it's okay. I'll cut that one out too.
No, that's fine. You could leave it. Whatever.
Yeah. Still very much appreciate you coming on. Do you have anything you want to tell people about? Anything you're working on?
God. I could always plug. I've got a new basketball book out, Top 75 for NBA. It's it's on Amazon.com. People could buy it there. I have baseball books. I have 10 books, so people could just go look up Russ Cohen on Amazon and do that. You go to sportsology.com. I write for other outlets, EP Ringside, Full Press, Goes. You could do that. Follow me at Sportsology. Follow me at Sportsology on Instagram. Like me, whatever. And I also have a hockey community called Beyond the Scrum. I started a community. It's growing. And so anybody could either DM me and say, I want to be in, and I'll put you in. It's just hockey conversation. Okay. I try and put interesting content there. I've been putting some content that I hadn't put up in other areas first, like interviews from the combine, videos, those kinds of things. So I've been doing that too. So, you're welcome. If you want to just talk hockey, hit me up, tweet me, or DM me.
I'll have to shoot you a DM, Russ. So I'm interested already.
There you go. Yeah. And we have some good people in there. And we really, if you don't want to hear about my food takes or the Mets or anything like that, then go in there and it's just hockey.
Oh, yeah. That sounds right up both of our alleys. We're interested. Thank you, Russ. So guys, make sure to check that out as well. And obviously you're doing more draft coverage, right? As we approach.
Yes, I will be a part of the SiriusXM team again. So I'll be on the draft floor at Montreal. So I'll do pre and post on the draft show.
That's awesome. Very, very
day
cool.
One. Then day 2, I just run amok.
Okay, well, that's still awesome. I love the draft. It's
day 2 is great for me because there's all these other guys that I want to talk to that aren't the big stars. That's where I really dig in. I love that.
That's awesome. Russ, actually, you mentioned your basketball book. This is a little off topic. I brought up to Vasili prior recording. What do you think about the movie Hustle? Did you get to see it?
I didn't get to see it yet. I knew there was a Flyers game a day after that wrapped. So people were talking about Sandler being at the Wells Fargo filming.
Yep.
And taking shots on the floor and stuff. I am anxious to see it. I'm not an NBA fan today. I do sometimes interview prospects at certain events. But I'm interested in that movie because anything with a basketball theme or a sports theme, I'm a sports junkie, so I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a good one.
Yeah. I was really impressed by it. I'm not going to lie. it's kind of like a sports nerd movie. Like it's for people who are like nerding out on sports in a way.
Like I'm not a huge Sandler fan for all his movies, but I align with him sports wise. He's a Jet fan. He's a passionate basketball fan. It's funny because like as Philly is a passionate basketball city, I think even New York is a little more.
Yeah.
And so, you know, some guys really live and die with it. I used to until I just couldn't take the Knicks anymore. So I just failed. I looked at all the teams that I, you know, was rooting for, and I said, I've got to lose one of them for my mental health. And so I got rid of the Knicks.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I just finished it today, actually. And I really enjoyed it. I love.
Well, that's good. That's going to make me watch it quicker.
Yeah. No. 100%.
Yeah, I saw it as well, and it was great. So.
Yeah, if they should do something like that for hockey, though hockey would not sell like basketball.
Yeah, anyway. Exactly. That's why there's not as many.
But I would love to see it. Yeah, I'd love to see it. All right, Russ, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah,
Vasili.
thanks for coming on.
Thanks again, buddy. Yeah.
Anytime. It was fun, guys.
This was a great episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, do the whole thing. Please give us a rating or a review on anything that you've listened to us on.
We're reading helpful. It all, and we'll try to do some more stuff that, I mean, you guys are more interested in if you want to, give us some topics, content, things like that. And we got a full lineup of guests coming up for the next few weeks. So excited about that. Again, Russ, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And remember, stay gritty.